advocacy wasn't something that was new to me. And so then when I realized that I had ADHD, I was like, oh, well, now I'm no longer like, now I can figure out the tools and the resources that are going to allow me to keep myself sane and to not feel burnt out and to not um, drain the lives of the people around me. ChatGPT is not a clinical diagnosis.
Right.
But if it helps answer a couple of questions that you can take with you to see somebody that is specialized in this field, then please do that. So this is how I work with my clients in terms of trying to determine what accommodations would be helpful for you is like one, identify what your executive function strengths and weaknesses are, weaker executive functions are. And so basically understand how your brain works and then take a look at what your essential and non-essential job functions are.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Café con Pam, the bilingual podcast que comparte nuestras historias sin censura. El día de hoy we have a conversation with Meghan Brown-Enyia. She's an ADHD coach, a social worker, and entrepreneur dedicated to helping women with ADHD thrive in their careers and businesses. With over 15 years of experience in operations, HR, and nonprofit leadership, she specializes in executive function strategies, workplace accommodations, and professional development. As the founder of ADHD at Work, she provides coaching, courses, and lots of resources tailored to the unique needs of neurodivergent professionals, entrepreneurs, and, of course, working moms. Her expertise extends to leadership coaching, career counseling, and creating structured support systems that empower women to succeed. She's also an advocate for ADHD awareness and accessibility, frequently speaking at conferences and developing educational materials, including her executive function workbook, designed to help ADHDers thrive at work. A natural creator, Meghan enjoys bringing ideas to life through DIY projects, design, and hands on creative work, channeling her energy into everything from crafting to building innovative coaching tools. Listeners, this conversation with Meghan, it might feel short. We covered a ton of things, I think. Definitely, I would love to know if you want Meghan back. I already want to bring Meghan back because I think we could explore so many topics from even this conversation that we didn't get to. And so we talk about a lot of things. I hope you find at least one nugget. My goal is for you to always leave with at least one thing that you can take and improve your life with. And if you do, I would love it if you can let me know, whether it's in the comments, if you're on YouTube, or screenshot and give us a shout out on social media or send me a DM. I love responding to DMs. If it takes me a minute, is because sometimes Instagram buries your message in all the inboxes that we get. But when I see it, I promise I respond. Sin más, here's my conversation with Meghan Brown-Enyia. Meghan, welcome to Cafe con Pam. So happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yes. So for the first question we always start Cafe con Pam with is, what is your heritage?
So I typically describe my heritage as African American. And then if I'm at a party that has some Caribbean music on, then I say Jamaican. I
Okay.
got one relative for my one grandfather, my great grandfather that came from the islands. That's where that brown came from. So
Mm.
I will wave a flag immediately. But still kind of far removed from my Jamaican heritage. I do use it though.
I love that. So born and raised in the US the whole time here.
Born and raised in Rhode Island, actually. So
Rhode Island.
yeah. So if those that are listening, yes, there's Black people in Rhode Island. Yes, I'm. Yeah, born and raised in Rhode Island.
How was it?
I mean, it's New England, so it's great, I guess.
I guess for someone who grew up there.
Yeah, I mean, Rhode Island. I mean, I love Rhode Island. And in particular Providence, like not out in the suburbs. So Providence was super diverse, so I always appreciated that. Growing up, my neighbor was 100% Native American, Narragansett Indian, and his wife was Puerto Rican. Across the street was Dominican. Up the street was Cape Verdean. Um, so there was a really big mix in my neighborhood. So that's how I grew up.
It's a tiny state, no?
It's the smallest state.
Yeah. It is the smallest?
Hmm. Until DC becomes the 51st state, Rhode Island is the smallest state in the country.
Wow. That's a whole conversation, but let's focus on what we need to focus is, on brand, on brand.
A lot of movies are actually recorded in Rhode Island, and people don't know because it's so much cheaper for Hollywood to record things out there. But yeah, a lot of movies take place in Rhode Island. Yeah, it's a great place.
Because it's like that East Coast old buildings type
Yep.
vibe.
Yeah. Old
Cheaper than
colonial.
New York, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. First 13 colonies, so,
Yeah.
representing, and hopefully we're making some new historical changes in this current political climate too. So we've been doing some things in Rhode Island. I don't even live there anymore, and I still claim.
Yeah?
And I haven't lived there in a really long time, but yeah, no, Rhode Island is making some history. I think they're the first. They're right now they're the first state to allow. Um, I want to say I have to look it up to quote me exactly, but to allow menopause and symptoms of menopause to be um, uh, a reason to get accommodations at work.
What? Okay, Rhode Island.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yes,
Did not expect the tiniest state to be
exactly.
like that.
So yeah, they're
Okay.
making moves. They're making moves. I appreciate it.
For sure. So Megan, your business is ADHD at work, but it
Yes,
didn't start that way.
it did not.
You also were one of the many people that were diagnosed as an adult
Hmm.
with ADHD. We're here because we are celebrating ADHD Awareness Month. And so I was told I had ADHD when I was 19, 20 years old, which is technically an adult. The average age for women is 36,
Hmm.
which is wild.
Yeah, I mean, but it not surprising though either. And so I
Correct.
was 38. I know I don't. I look younger than 38 now. I get
I
it.
made it to like 26.
I was diagnosed at I was 38. But it's not that surprising because just thinking about how much more knowledge we have about ADHD, how your brain works, a lot more people are accessible to that knowledge. But if we're really like this is the process that I had to go through, especially with because like once you get diagnosed as a later adult, you go through what people can describe as like a grieving process, right? Because like you're sitting back and you're reflecting on your whole life and you're like, oh my God, so many things could have been different if I would have known, if I had access to supports, if I was around a community that welcomed difference, etc. Right?
So much grieving. I went through it in my 20s, but I see people in their 30s and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. You had like a whole decade afterwards.
Yeah. People didn't know anything about ADHD. Providers weren't trained on it. Um, it just wasn't the information wasn't accessible. It was still I mean it's still kind of seen as like the white male issue. And so but it definitely was like when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, like people weren't talking about ADHD. And then being not white, that's also
Hmm.
not a conversation that happens within the home either. And so I mean even as an adult, when I told my mother that I had ADHD, she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And next subject. Like, so we're just not
Totally.
talking about this? Nope. Okay.
Well, and also the stigma, no? Like the mental health thing of like culturally, black and brown cultures probably, I don't want to speak for other cultures, but we have this thing of like, we don't like mental health. What is this? And so anytime you bring something that has to do with your brain,
Mhm.
then they're like, cool, go clean.
Right.
Like,
I'm like, okay, so what's for dinner tonight? I'm like, yeah, but we're not going to talk
right. So you went through this grieving process. You were an adult. You had been in this workspace for over a decade, and
about. Mhm.
then seeing diagnoses happen for children, for the children that you were working with. You were like,
Mhm.
wait a minute. maybe I do have ADHD. And then your peers, that's what, when I heard this, I was like, this is fascinating. When your peers
Hmm.
were like, obviously you do.
Hmm.
And you were like, wait, you all knew? It was one of those things like everyone knew but you?
Exactly. So I'm working for early childhood special ed programs, working with providers, psychologists, social workers. I mean, I have my master's in social work, so I went through a social work program without
Yes.
a diagnosis, right?
The
And
irony,
so,
no?
but it just goes to show you that nobody knew about this, and there wasn't a lot of awareness around how the difference in the ways that your brain is wired are going to impact you in your own and however you define success in work, in school, and in life, etc. But now with the increased awareness, you have access to so many more resources. But regardless, if you're still newly diagnosed, you still may go through this grieving process, and that takes time, for sure.
So your peers are like, of course, Megan, you have ADHD. So you go through the process, you get a diagnosis,
Yes.
then your life is like, wait. So because this is true, looking back, everything could have been different, but it isn't. So that's where the grieving process comes in.
Hmm.
How did you deal with it?
I mean, I quit my job. I did all I did all the things. I got married, I quit my job, I got a new one. All of a sudden I became like a champion for ADHD. Um, and I mean that was how I dealt with it because but it helps to understand too that I was already in this position of advocacy, right? Like I'm advocating for
Mm,
families, I'm advocating for children. I've been advocating for Black and Brown communities for my entire pre-professional career, like since I was a teenager, right? And so advocacy wasn't something that was new to me. And so then when I realized that I had ADHD, I was like, oh well, now I'm no longer like now I can figure out the tools and the resources that are going to allow me to keep myself sane and to not feel burnt out and to not um, drain the lives of the people around me. And I can do something about it, right? I can get access to support, and so why not tell other people how to do that too?
I love that. So you're a certified ADHD coach, yeah?
I am a certified. I did not specifically, just to be clear, I did not specifically get a certification as an ADHD coach for a variety of different reasons. I don't know if you want to get into that here, but
I
however, I
we've
have my
talked about it briefly, but but you have, in a way, the specialty.
yes, absolutely. So I did the training around ADHD, but the way that coaching programs are set up, there's multiple different ways that you can get access to the qualifications that you need in order to practice as an ADHD coach, right? And so, I mean, but there's also a lot of ADHD coaches that do not get any type of training,
Right. They just have ADHD and they're like, "I know how to deal with you."
right? And that's not the case. Like it, I mean, I have my MSW. I also have been practicing in education for a really long time. I have certifications in HR. I do have a certification specifically in coaching, and then an added knowledge and experience and coursework in in ADHD as well.
Yeah. This is why I don't people come to me and they're like, "Do you do ADHD coaching?" And I'm like, "No. I'm a life coach, double certified. I'm a clinical EFT practitioner. Like I bring all of the other things, but I don't ever talk about specifically ADHD, even though I have it. I've been dealing with this for decades.
Right.
But I know there's like different things that you can because not every brain is created equal. So just because things work for me doesn't mean that things will work for you or whoever else.
Exactly. And then and especially if people are looking for ADHD coaches, it's important to be able to ask some of those questions around their qualifications and their experience when they start to use the terminology of ADHD coach. It's I mean even coaching in general, to be honest. But
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I mean, I have decades of like managing and leading people and have researched it and also like, I know how to read a research article first.
Yes. Let's start there.
Right. There's a lot of people that like to quote research articles. I read this in research. I'm like, okay, but do you actually know how to effectively read a research article? If you don't know what this, and that means, then I don't want to. I'm not interested in your interpretation, if I'm being honest.
Totally. Okay, so let's now, for the people listening and they're like, "All right, there's a lot of things now that are very like undiagnosed but probably right, or what is it, there's t-shirts that people have made that are like not not diagnosed but pretty sure or something like that.
Oh yeah, something. Oh
So,
yeah.
you know, but for the people that are like maybe, or many cases, the parent that their kid got diagnosed and they're like, "Wait a minute.
Hmm.
There's things here." What is the first thing you would recommend? So grieve, we talked about it. So
Yeah.
allow yourself to grieve the reality of it.
Yeah. So if this is like post-diagnosis or pre-diagnosis.
Pre-diagnosis.
If it's pre-diagnosis, especially because with women, yes, that's what happens a lot, right? Like your kids get diagnosed formally, and you're like, oh wait, this kid is just like me. Yes, most like I mean, ADHD is genetic, just like other different areas of neurodiversity, and like there's a genetic component in all of it, regardless of what people may say. The truth is, this genetic component, and everybody that works in this space knows this. Um, and so it's if you are having that sticker shock, is that what it's called? Yeah, sticker shock experience when
Mhm.
you get diagnosed. um One, I mean, as a parent you tend to kind of prioritize your kids needs over your own naturally, but this is one of those moments. It's like, get this, pay attention to the services and the communication that is happening with your kid when it comes to this practice and getting access to supports within the ADHD space, and see and then assess your own level of comfort with
Mm.
trying things out for yourself, and seeing if there's a way for you to access support services for yourself too, if things are starting to feel really familiar, right? Like it's a very vulnerable space, right? Like especially when you see your kid, and like a lot of the times your kid is also a little bit older too when they're getting diagnosed, and so they're going through that process. You're going through that emotional transition with them, and then when they go to sleep, now you're like that, now you finally have time to reflect, and you're like, wait a minute, what about me? And so you're
Yeah.
find a safe space to be able to communicate your concerns or your challenges or your questions. And a lot of coaches are available. Go to, if you have access to a psychiatrist, if you have access to a therapist, being able to reach out and answer some questions. I mean, clients have come to me and said, I just chat GPT'd it, and I'm definitely I definitely have ADHD. And I'm like, if it helps inspire you to go with a clinical professional, then that's fine. But it's ChatGPT is not a clinical diagnosis.
Right.
But if it helps answer a couple of questions that you can take with you to see somebody that is specialized in this field, then please do that.
You know what's frustrating? Losing your wallet. And sometimes what's even more painful? Realizing your almost full punch card from your favorite cafecito spot is now gone. But at least, even when your cafecito points have vanished, at BMO, if you lose your debit card, they'll print you a new one instantly at a local branch. Plus, you can use your phone to freeze your debit card to prevent any unauthorized transactions. Learn more at bmo.com. Conditions apply. Accounts provided in the United States by BMO Bank and a member FDIC. Let's talk about something we all deserve: financial empowerment. Whether you're tackling debt, planning for retirement, or starting that dream business, navigating your finances can feel overwhelming. But it doesn't have to be, thanks to Savvy Ladies. Savvy Ladies is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping women like you take control of your financial future. They offer free resources, webinars, and my favorite, a free financial helpline where you can connect one on one with trusted financial experts. And yes, it's completely free. Whether you're just starting your financial journey or need guidance on a specific challenge, Savvy Ladies is here to provide quality and trusted advice you can count on. So why wait? Visit savvyladies.org today and connect with the financial helpline to get the personalized support you deserve. Your journey to financial independence starts here. That is savvyladies.org. Your path to financial freedom can start today. So, we're still talking pre diagnosis. Now, let's talk accessibility.
Hmm.
So, not everyone has access to a psychiatrist, to paying for the testing. It's expensive if you don't have insurance. It's like a whole thing. And so, what would you say to people that are like, well, not diagnosed, but pretty sure? And I don't have the means to get a diagnosis because you ADHD at work, you often work with people in accommodations. Do they absolutely need a diagnosis in order to get accommodations at work?
So I'm going to answer a couple of things. So one, to get access to medication to support your ADHD, you need an official diagnosis from somebody licensed that provides these services. And but to get other types of support like coaching, accountability, support groups, you do not have to have a diagnosis for that. And and so that's, it's not the medicinal ways in order to be able to access supports for ADHD, but it can help with creating structures. And meds don't actually correct all of some of the challenges that you may experience 100% anyway. And so usually, the best combination is therapy, coaching, and medication is what they will say. And so if you still have access, and then people don't take, a lot of ADHDers don't actually take meds as well for a variety of reasons. Like I'm unmedicated ADHD. Um, and and that's the whole other conversation, but I won't go down that rabbit hole.
We have so many podcasts to record,
I know.
so
um,
many topics.
but to go back to your original questions in terms of accessing supports from your workplace. So to go through the formal accommodations process, they will ask you if you have a qualifying disability.
Mm,
And so it's either yes or no. And now what that
regardless of the state, or does it vary?
no, it's federal. So it doesn't matter on the state, but it doesn't matter in the state in terms of your ability to access accommodations, but the federal law is around requires employers that have 15 or more employees to be able to access accommodations. And so if you have under the federal law, but then individual states have their own laws. And I'll send you a link actually. I didn't send you this, but I'll send you a link that tells you what the qualifying numbers are for each state within the United States.
Okay, so we'll have it in the show notes.
Oh yeah, I'll send you that link. Because some states just mirror what the federal government says in terms of 15 or more employees, and then other states that are a little bit more progressive will say two. If you have two employees, and you need to follow ADA, the American Disabilities Act,
Wow.
and that's across disability, right? And so it kind of just it depends there in terms of who has access to the ADA. But if you do have access to the ADA and you're looking for accommodations, you have to have a qualifying disability. So I would argue that you do need an official diagnosis. However, how you
Okay.
communicate that to your employer doesn't have to be like, I have ADHD and you need to provide me accommodations. It
That's
could be,
not how you do it.
I usually say I have a qualifying disability that I would like to access accommodations, and then they will give you some paperwork to have your doctor fill out.
Okay, so you do have to, in a way, prove it.
It kind of depends, honestly. And so a majority of the HR departments will send you documentation. So if you that you need to get filled out by an official um, provider. So either your
Mhm.
psychiatrist, but I've also completed this ADA accommodation paperwork too for clients, and that has been accepted. And so your ADHD coach can do it as well. But
Nice. That's relieving.
yes, but you do. I would I have seen it more beneficial for having the combo of the psychiatrist that has diagnosed you with ADHD and if you're working with an ADHD coach to fill out that paperwork together to be able to really get you specific accommodations that are going to really help you with the work that you're doing for you, like at your employer with your job, because everybody is doing something different, and so you can really
Right.
personalize it. Versus like a psychiatrist isn't going to know the ins and outs, and they're not even going to have a conversation with you honestly about the ins and outs of your position.
Yeah.
To be that detailed, it's going to be very general. But with if you're working with somebody like me, you can get very specific accommodations.
So what would accommodations look like? So how does one know that they would thrive with accommodations? Because the thing is, we've been masking in the
Hmm.
workforce for so long that I think a lot of people don't even realize the difference. So for me, working from home, it made such a difference. Every
Hmm.
time I would work from home, like even when I was in corporate, if let's just even say when I was traveling for work and I worked for my hotel, I would get so much shit done.
Hmm.
Versus when I was in the office, there were so many distractions and people would walk by my desk and ask me 1,000 questions. I could never literally, I would take work home because all day I would just be chit-chatting with everybody and just
Yeah.
trying to focus. So, but that's me, right? How does one know that accommodation like, what accommodations would look like for them? And, like, we can make it short because in the interest of time.
Yeah, I mean, so to answer your first question, I would argue that you will thrive when you have access to accommodations and strategies and support to help you navigate what it's like to work with your ADHD in the world around you. And so I would argue that 100%.
Yeah.
And in terms of understanding what so this is how I work with my clients in terms of trying to determine what accommodations would be helpful for you is like one, identify what your executive function strengths and weaknesses are, weaker executive functions are. And so basically understand how your brain works and then take a look at what your essential and non-essential job functions are. And so under the law, you have to be able to complete your essential job functions. So the reason why your job is created with or without supports, with or without accommodations. Like so basically you have to do your job, right? You have to be able to do your job. And so it's one, how does your brain work? Two, what is it that you're doing? So what are the essential and non-essential job functions? And the essential ones are the ones that really matter. And it also positions you to really have a hard conversations with your supervisors around what it is that you're doing. Because everybody goes to work with one position description and then day one they're doing something that's in one line on that position description.
Right.
And then now there's all of a sudden it's deemed essential. And it's like, what are you talking about? And so it's really having a really clear conversation about what those essential job functions are. Um, and so with that data, you're able to identify where are the areas that you're struggling and why. And then what does your work environment look like? Are you in an office? Are you not in an office? What are your office policies? And like, do they have policies around working from home and not working from home or working from anywhere really? And then, what are the AI policies? And so having a conversation about what is the environment that you're working with, right? Like,
Mm,
do you have access to change the lighting in your space, right? And so it's little things like that where it's really getting nitty gritty into an idea
mhm.
what what you're experiencing and then what those challenges are so that you can build in accommodations and strategies to make it work. And not employers don't they don't have to provide everything, right? There's a subset of things that you can just do yourself also. Like you can actually
Okay.
use the fluorescent lights or you can turn them off and bring in lighting that's a little bit softer. And so do you want to talk to maintenance? Do you not want to talk to maintenance? And so like that also becomes a part of the conversation. Like if dealing with those service requests just is going to send you on an emotional spiral, then what are some ways that we can just still provide, like make sure that your needs are met, but without triggering you even more, right?
And this is why I think it's important to have a coach
Hmm.
because then they can come back to you and be like, "You're not gonna believe what they said." And having ADHD myself, I Otherwise, I would just overthink
Hmm.
or be like, you know what, this is not worth it. It's more painful than helpful, so I'm just not gonna do it. But then having someone like you as an advocate to be like, wait a minute, maybe they don't want to change the fluorescent lights completely, but what about asking them to turn them off and then you bring a lamp? Like those things that people may just not think about. This is why asking for support is important.
Yeah, and then during coaching too, we can talk about what resources you do have access to, right? Like our brains are just
Mm,
to focus onto the negative anyway, and then we go on to that. I don't have, and then it's like with ADHD, it's very all or nothing thinking. Like, I don't have access to anything, any resources, and it's like, well, let's talk about how true that statement really is, right? And let's list what the resources you do have access to, and see how we can better use them. So, do you have access to a project management software? Yes. But do you know how to use it? No. So you can ask for accommodation around training to access training so that you can better utilize the system to keep yourself a little bit more organized, right? And so things like that.
so thinking about the things that we're not thinking
Right.
and stop overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
love that. Okay. So we talked about diagnosis, we talked about accommodations. If those happen, what about for entrepreneurs now? For the people that work for themselves. So, how do they give themselves accommodations?
Yeah. So, so one, if you're an entrepreneur, you know that again, depending on what state you're in, you also need to provide you may need to provide accommodations to your own support staff. But
Yep.
if you're working for yourself, you still have to go through the same process. You need to go through the process of what are my strengths, what are my weaker executive functions, what is it that I'm doing, what resources do I have access to that I can utilize, and how, and then what, and then like really where am I struggling, and having a real honest conversation with themselves about those challenges, so that we can put in strategies to make it work, and reflecting on what, like, you weren't born, well, some people are, right? Like some people just walk into entrepreneurship and never had a 9 to 5,
Right.
but those that didn't, like myself,
Mhm.
where were you struggling in the 9 to 5 space that you
Mhm.
still may be struggling with as an entrepreneur? And the other thing with ADHD and entrepreneurship, like you're doing it because there's some passion that you're something that you're really passionate about, and that's where your hyper focus is right now, right? And so that's the thing that you really want to be doing. But then knowing as a business owner, you have a whole laundry list of
Of
other
things to
things
do.
to do. And most likely all of the things that make your face scrunch up, or those things that you just tend to avoid, are probably the areas that are taxing your weaker executive functions, and that you can't stand doing. And so then those, like, if you're looking for a go-to list, start with the ones that you are avoiding, and start with the ones that just keep you up at night or just roll your eyes at, right? And so
Mhm.
those are the tasks that are probably taxing your weaker executive functions and the ones that you hate doing. And so if you're looking for a starting place for strategies and accommodations, start with that.
Mm. So you've talked about finding your executive function. So how does one figure out what their strengths in their executive function is?
So I use an assessment by Jane Dawson and Richard Guar. I'm not sure 100% sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but it ends with a G. And they have a book called Smart But Scattered, and they have their executive functioning assessment in that book. And it's, I mean, it just Google Peg Dawson executive functioning assessment, and it's all over the internet. It's a free resource. She's fine with everybody using it. It's on my, if you're looking for a copy of it, if you don't want to Google and you want to make sure it's the right one, I have it listed on my website. You can use it there. With my clients, I just have an Excel version of it. So when we go through the questions, it just auto populates.
Mhm. 25 questions.
I think it's 30, it should be 36.
36, you're correct.
It's on a rating scale of 1 to 7, and it gives you
Yep.
different questions like, do you like, which ones resonate with you? The nice thing, I if people want to do it before they see me, then that's 1000% total fine. Like if you want to do it on your own, absolutely. I did it on my own. I made my husband do it. I make everybody do it. Right. And so it just helps me better communicate with people. Like, okay, and not helps me release judgment when I understand like how this is just how your brain is wired, and there's things that you
For
can
sure.
to help improve some of those different executive functioning weaknesses, right? But if you're doing it, like I enjoy doing it with my clients because you get a lot of other information when they're answering the questions that
Mm-hmm.
help me help them better identify what strategies and supports would be able to help. Also, I will call you out if everything is neutral.
Mm,
So like you're answering everything for, you're like, oh well,
sometimes.
yeah, right. And so it's really being able to push people to be like, okay, let's have a real conversation about this because not everything is neutral.
Yeah, I agree. I think this assessment is really helpful because it also shows that not every brain is created equal.
Hmm.
Not every ADHD brain is created like even neurotypicals are not created equal, like
Hmm. Yeah,
so
I mean,
not every ADHD person is equal.
yeah, everybody has a brain, and everybody has stronger and weaker executive functions. Um,
Mhm.
and where I struggle when it comes to, especially with navigating ADHD at work or just navigating work in the first place, like my background in HR and just people management and people dynamics, is that a lot of positions, like I read position descriptions now and I'm like, who is this person? Like this person, you're expecting this person to have every single last one of their executive functions to be at 110%.
Right.
And that's not even a thing for anybody, neurodiverse or not. And so
Mhm.
it's interesting what people prioritize as it relates to tasks that need to be completed and what these essential job functions are and how brains are actually wired.
For sure. What would you say to maybe people might have some shame around like, "Oh, do I wanna talk about it? Because does that make me whatever?"
Yeah, I think a lot of people can sometimes get caught up with the label and being put in a category or don't feel the need to kind of talk about it all of the time,
Mhm.
which is fair. I love talking about it. I'll wear a t-shirt that says, hey, listen, I have ADHD and it is what it is.
Yeah, same.
But I think, people are at a different level of acceptance when it comes to their own diagnosis. Um, and then, people don't necessarily want it to define them also. And so I respect everybody's journey, right? Like if you don't if you don't want to have a conversation about it, you don't have to. But I will tell you that it's going to impact you. And so regardless if you talk about it or not, you're going to feel the impact of it.
Mhm.
And so if you don't want to talk about it, we can just talk about the impact without using the language, but it's going to impact you regardless because we live in a world that's not designed for difference.
Yes.
Period. And so
So many layers there.
right. And so but I mean the shame part comes I mean, with ADHD we tend to feel shame in a lot of reasons, and a lot of it is because we have to unlearn so many things.
Mhm.
Like we should be to be able to do this. We should, and the dreaded word consistency, right? Like, and
Yes.
I should be able to do this every day at 6 o'clock. Why?
Right.
Like, why?
Well, especially women, because hormone levels shift, like, there's so much.
Right? Like women in general cannot do everything at the same day. Like it's but depending on the time of the month, like we have our hormones are all over the place, right?
Yes. Already, plus ADHD.
Right, and then plus sleep deprivation, and you add work stress and managing families or just managing
Caregiving.
caregiving, like
Mhm.
all of that. Like life is hard enough, but we don't need to put the extra pressure on ourselves
Yes,
because we're trying to meet some standard that didn't have us in mind
for
when
sure.
it was created. And the standard is not even the standard. That's the other thing.
That's the other thing. Standard was created by a man who had all the support.
Right.
Okay. So we're running out of time, but I want to thank you for coming to Cafe Con Pam and sharing all the things. Definitely will bring you back for more because there's so many things.
Yeah, so many
But
things.
last few questions. Do you have a remedy you want to share?
So that's so interesting because I was thinking about what a remedy is that in terms of my own family, right? So there's I think there would be two things. One, always have plants around,
Mm.
and just having access to greenery. Um, like everybody has plants, like and then and taking pieces of those plants from your family or from your loved ones as well, and just to regrow them within your own space. I think there's just something powerful about that experience.
Yeah.
And then that I would say that's probably the good thing to pass down. And then I would say the other thing, I think there's a remedy that I am starting with myself and my generation moving forward is accessing the supports that you need. One, identifying what those needs are, and then accessing supports for and not using coping mechanisms that aren't actually helping you.
Oof. So much to unpack there, but we'll leave it at that. All right. I love that. And so you're the first guest actually that's getting
Oh,
the new ending questions.
okay.
So, what question did your inner child wonder that you can answer now?
My inner child always wondered if there was somebody that would listen to me.
Mm,
I think that's something that my inner child always wanted to know. Like, is there somebody that will truly actually listen to me
oof.
and pay close attention to my needs, right? Like,
Yeah.
truly. Yeah.
Tell her yes.
Yes.
Adult you is there.
Mhm.
What connects you to her main character energy? And, well, that's it. What connects you to her main character energy?
What connects me to remain character energy?
Hmm. Like when you're the truest version of you, without masking, without looking for approval, you show up and you're your whole self. How do you know you're there?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have been there.
Oh, all right. Food for thought. Next time,
Yeah.
come back with an answer.
Yeah. I don't know if I have been there. I think that there's been moments, but they're so short lived because just the world that you like, I feel like just the world that I live in requires me to mask at least 5-10%.
Oof, that's deep.
But I feel like I have gotten to a place where masking is intentional.
Strategic.
Yeah, it's very strategic. And I think that's different than feeling like I have to mask.
I agree. I
Um,
agree. Strategic.
yeah, so like now I'm at the place where I strategically mask. And so that's different.
Love that. And last question. Um, what's on your desk that keeps you grounded?
Um, I'm looking over at my desk now. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I have some. So my desk has a glass top, and it has some space underneath the glass top where I can put like affirmations or just other words of wisdom or pictures of things. And so I do try to keep like a couple of things that just visually remind me and ground me in my truth under the glass top. Sometimes it gets covered by clutter, and so then I'm like, okay, I can't see my affirmations anymore. It's time to clean. But I do like to keep items in there that you know remind me of good moments or good thoughts or just of my own brilliance, that kind of thing.
Yes, I support that. Well, Megan, thanks so much for coming to Cafe Con Pam. This was awesome. Let's bring you back.
Yes.
Maybe we can find a series.
Yeah. I'm with it. I'm with it.
Make it thematic. All right. Well, have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank
Oh,
you.
wait. I haven't asked you. Tell us all the places and spaces where we can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram at ADHD at work. I'm also on LinkedIn with my name, Meghan Brown-Enyia. And I happen to actually, it's ADHD Awareness Month. So I am doing an Instagram Live every day at 10:30 a.m. Eastern and for every weekday. So Monday through Friday with a variety of topics. I did this last year as well. And so you can catch the replays on YouTube or on LinkedIn, but I'm live streaming on Instagram and LinkedIn every day at 10:30 a.m. So catch me there. Also, my website, adhdatwork.co, not com, co.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably there the most on Instagram and LinkedIn right now, but I also do have a random TikTok page as well. But it's all ADHD at work. So it's pretty,
Yay. And we have it all linked in the show notes.
yeah. Yep. And I have a
Okay.
book coming out too. It's a workbook. I do have a workbook coming out. It should be on Amazon soon, but I do have a pre-sale going on, and it is an executive functioning workbook around thriving at work with ADHD. So everything that I talked about today, it gives you the opportunity to do some of that self-coaching yourself in your own time, in your own space. If you feel like you need that privacy and you're not ready to have that conversation with the coach, or you can bring it with you to a coaching session, and we can kind of walk through the strategy
Mm,
to help you get from point A to point B.
love that. All right. We'll have all of that in the show notes.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming to Cafe con Pam.
Thank you.
Okay, listeners. So that was my conversation. I mean, listen, I know we shared a lot of things. I feel like we were unmasked for a big portion of the call, which you can see our brains totally like going into it. However, I do think we did a good job kind of like staying on track. So I would love to know your thoughts. And like I said at the beginning, if you want to bring or if you want me to bring Megan back, I would love to. I just send me some questions. We have every episode we drop a link where you can send listener questions. If you want to remain completely anonymous, you can do that. So there are ways for you to tell me what you want without me knowing who you are. And so you can drop also listener questions. We have the link below in the show notes or in the show notes on the website if you're listening to the podcast on a podcast platform. Y bueno, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you next time y sigue brillando. Café con Pam is created con mucho amor by our small but mighty team. Content production by Nancy Jaimes. Podcast management by Maru Linardi. Social media and marketing by Brenda Figueroa. And me, your host, Pam Covarrubias. To keep the cafecito brewing and the healing flowing, join the Supporters Club for only $5 a month and access early episodes, behind the scenes vibes, and exclusive minisodes you won't hear anywhere else. Screenshot this episode and tag me and share what resonated. I love seeing your takeaways. Follow on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's keep the conversation going with us on social media at Cafe Con Pan Podcast because your voice always matters there. We love being on Instagram and Facebook. Gracias for listening to Cafe Con Pan, a Spread Ideas Move People production. For more episodes, guest info, or resources, visit cafeconpam.com. And if you're healing from calladita culture and don't know where to start, you can take the quiz. cafeconpam.com/quiz for Tia Wisdom and cariño just for you.
Sabrosura pa' ti que